Hello ladies and gentlemen, chicas and the chicos. We are going to talk about how to super GM, or more importantly, what can we learn from super GMs, which is a very interesting proposition because if we are club level players, obviously there is a lot that we can learn from and we don't necessarily need to go to the very top. But now we are in a fortunate situation when we can see how the very top is operating because the candidates is on. And so I thought I couldn't help but grab this beautiful opportunity to present the very famous Wang Hao Grischuk game, which actually was also published recently on Danny King's channel. And so I decided not to watch that video at all so that I don't overlap, or if I do, at least it's unintentional. But I believe I'm going to take a very different take from his because he's mostly talking about the infamous 70 minutes thing. And I'm going to do that too, but from a very different agenda and a very different viewpoint. So actually, let's jump into the game first, and then let me tell you what I want to tell you. So it was a French main line where Wang Hao played his knight ce2 line. And this is an extremely ambitious move despite of its very shy appearance, because the idea behind the move is that if black attacks the center, I hold it. If black attacks the center, I hold it too. So on both sides, I can actually match black's undermining moves with my holding moves, and so I never have to give up the center either way. And that is indeed what happened in the game, as you can see. So black is challenging and white is retaining the center, and so there is an enormous tension and energy that is about to explode in this position. And actually, good old Grischuk did say it correctly later on in the staff in the press conference that in this position I needed to play very energetically because otherwise it's okay. White just has huge advantage, so I needed to do something very energetic, and he's very correct. So that was a pretty bad impersonation. I'll have to practice that more. So he needed to do something very energetic indeed. And so here he started calculating some very deep variations, which I'm going to share with you in a moment. But let me actually name the agenda. So what I'm trying to tell you here, if you are a club player, what you can take away from this is this incredible desire to out-calculate your opponent. If you are a better calculator in chess than your opponent, you are going to beat them every single time. It's as simple as that. If you are in any other area, you are even, and you are a better calculator, you are 100 times going to beat them out of 100 games. If you are a better calculator, but in other areas of chess you are still inferior, you are still very likely to win a lot more games than you are going to lose. Because calculation is the crux of the game, especially if the game and the situation on the board is calculable. Meaning there are lots of captures, threats, dynamic positions. Obviously in a static setup it's less relevant. But in most positions you will find that calculation is the key. And so when Grischuk was confronted in the press conference about, dude, what was the 17 minutes, he goes like this: well, I was looking at taking here, and then I thought that he would take back like so, and then I wanted to do this, but then he takes this, then I go d4, then he takes this. Did I take with the wrong knight? Wait. Yes, no, the bishop. Yeah, I did take with the wrong knight. So yeah, that's it. Takes, he says takes, he says d4, he says takes, he says takes, and then he says, and then after check, king takes f8, queen d5, I'm losing the game because of the two mate threats, and if I go king e8, then after either check and then castles or instant castles, white has a huge advantage. Now he sees in front of his eyes, right here, this position when this is on the board. And he assesses it, and he assesses it correctly. And if I said nothing else but just this in this video, I already feel that this is an incredibly instructive insight into the super GM's mind. And that is that it's an attempt on seeking out the ultimate truth. So he looks into a move and he wants to explore what's in it. And he goes, okay, I take, they take, I go here, they go here, I take, check, takes, queen d5, and just calculates and calculates, and it doesn't stop ever until he reaches a definitive moment. And that definitive moment for Grischuk is about here, where he confidently can call it a crystal clear white advantage. Again, I want to stress that it's in here whilst he's looking at this. Now, if you don't find that an absolutely breathtaking piece of a genius, then I don't know how else to look at that. And he goes, I can do that. The story gets better, by the way. And so he goes, okay, so then I started calculating a different line where I went, okay, then I'm going to take this. And the best part of it, and I often refer to this too, which is quite breathtaking, is that whilst he's doing this, check out Wang Hao's face. Look at that face in the press conference. Like the guy just sits there in utter amazement as Grischuk is playing out the variations. Like you look at his face and you go like, what is this guy doing? Like he saw half of that. You can easily tell. At a certain point he joined in at a very relevant line, by the way, but he was totally out of it. Partly because he didn't need to see that because his intention was to retake the other way, but still it just shows how hardcore he was outcalculated at this stage of the game by Grischuk. And then Grischuk goes like, okay, so this one doesn't work, I will try this. And then his variation here went like knight e5, fe, knight f5. Queen is hanging, bishop c5, takes, and he says, I calculated this and I like black. Again, in that position before cd4, but I didn't like this. And then he calculated this line all the way to some crazy checkmate. Where was the beautiful mate? No, I can't find it. Oh, there it is. There it is. So then he calculates this line that, okay, then I go here, knight e5, knight e4, queen d4, queen b2, rook d1. He sees that there is no mate here. So he's already says that white is winning here. But there is a cute checkmate with queen f2, take, rook d4, takes, checkmate. He calculated this position, the entire variation. He saw this until mate from here. I'm speechless. From here, he goes to here without making a single mistake in his calculation. I mean, okay, queen f2 was a bad move, but he wanted to calculate it out for fancy's sake just to see if it does win for white or not. That is unfathomable to us mere mortals. And then the best part is that then he concludes that, so I calculated everything and everything is bad. And then I went back one more time to check on this line because this seemed to be the most promising when I went here. And then he goes like, and then I realized that here, after the check, I can just go here. I mean, what a damn genius to even think about that. And he goes after bishop c4, knight f6, and the mate is defended, black is winning. And he is spot on. And if knight takes d7, then queen takes b2. And rook is hanging and the, well, kind of mate is on. But the rook can't go to d1 because of mate. And black is winning. And he calls that correctly too. And he also adds that I also checked with bishop c4 check, but the same applies. Again, I can go here. And if the knight goes to check, takes and queen g2 to give a mate here. He goes knight f6. And I stop the mate and I'm winning. And so he calculates all this. And then his opponent plays the other knight. And then in the press conference he goes like, and so he plays knight e takes d4. And now I've got no time. My position is good, but no time. Absolute genius. So, what should we take away from this? If I'm 1700, there's no way I can calculate like that. No way on earth. Not even close. And that is correct. But you can do one thing. And I did talk about it in other videos, but I would like to reinforce it because this is a fundamental change that I think club level players need to embark on and try. And actually it's difficult. You need to force yourself into it. And that is to try to calculate more than what you feel comfortable with. Like you go like, oh, I can't see that anymore. No, start again and look into it. And this is where, again, I come into conflict with a lot of people. And that was an interesting point that came up in my podcast with Ben Johnson, when I said that I can't wait to get back to real chess, because what we are doing online is sort of at best some sort of replacement. And a lot of people disagreed with that or got hurt by it because, well, what if I can only play online chess? Like, you can't take away from me that's not real. Neither do I intend to, but you can't compare a 5 minutes bliss game and its utter shallowness to this. This is chess. When you calculate lines like this, like a legend, and you actually get into the core of the position, you figure out what's going on, you understand the inner dynamics, you calculate, you evaluate, and you make the best call. You can't do that in 5 minutes, in 15 minutes, in 30. It took one of the best grandmasters in the world 70 minutes. How on earth could we produce anything remotely quality, when we are 5 million light years away from his skill, and we are given 1/10 of the time he uses? It's nonsense. You can't. And in my opinion, you can't possibly not appreciate what proper time control over the board chess has brought back to us now, which is quality, depth, appreciation of thought. But that's just a thought aside that I do insist that this is chess. Not necessarily because it's Grischuk, but because of the time that was dedicated to the effort that went down. I don't care how you play, as long as you put the thought behind it, which is impossible to do in 5 minutes. I have got full respect for the effort, however bad that may look compared to a Grischuk game. No one cares. But what I want to say with this is that, in my opinion, a very good way to improve for most club players is to push their boundaries and their comfort zones. Most people don't feel comfortable with calculating, and they don't like doing it because it's hard. And I totally get that. But unfortunately, that's how chess works. If you calculate more and better than the dude on the other side of the board, you will win. And so you would be a fool not to try to actually improve in that area, even if at first it's difficult. And usually it all comes down to visualization, but the problem is that it's best practiced by calculating a lot. You can't practice visualization, which is essentially calculating very deep, without trying to calculate very deep, right? You can't be a sufficient, proficient, very good long distance runner if you don't start running longer distances than what you're used to. It's impossible. You will never run the marathon if the longest distance you are willing to put in training is 2 kilometers. You will die. That's simple as that. You're never gonna make it. You need to push yourself out of your comfort zone and try to go beyond your currently existing limit. And if your current existing limit is that you can comfortably calculate 2-3 moves ahead, try 4. And it's also not necessarily the depth, but the width. And I also talked about that. That Grischuk here explored a large number of variations. He looked at that, and even among those two lines, millions side variations and branches where he calculated and assessed positions correctly. And this is also the reason why I'm a big supporter of proper openings. Because proper openings, and I'm not going to go there now, London, wink wink, they generate very complex middle game scenarios where you actually can shine in terms of calculating, out-calculating, and proving yourself to be better. Like, look at this position, mainline French, and the whole board is total chaos. Or take Giri's example yesterday in that exchange, Rui Lopez. Holy moly, like everything was hanging and everyone was attacking the other one, and it was just mental. Absolutely amazing chess. So that's another thing, that if you have got an opening repertoire that actually leads you, or allows you rather, to complex positions, then there is a far larger chance that then you can excel in these areas, and you will be somewhat forced into calculating the way how Grischuk felt that he needed to do something energetic because otherwise position is not really good. Fair enough. And so he goes, stuff it, I'm going to have to figure it out and calculate it out. And so he did. And as far as I am concerned, it was 70 minutes really well spent. Like, the way I like to refer to this is that he owns the game. Like, after he finished this game, I don't think I could have asked the question from Grischuk about this game, like in relation to any variation at all, where he would have gone like, yeah, I didn't think about that. And by question, I mean relevant question. And there were actually questions asked from leading grandmasters, or at least quite good grandmaster journalists during the interview, and instantly fired back with lines. I always say that to my students, that I have never or hardly ever felt that I got absolutely outclassed when I was playing a game. Even when I was defeated by someone way better than me, it was very rare that I felt like, holy cow, this guy is from a different planet. But I very often was made feel utterly inferior and very bad at chess in analysis. Afterwards, we finished the game, we stand up, I lost, I'm like, yeah, this guy's a GM, fair enough, I lost. He got the better of me. We sit down and start showing me that, oh, and in this position I looked at this, and I looked at this, and I didn't like it because of this, and I didn't like it because of that, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, we didn't even play the same game. Like, I saw none of that. Like, how do I have the nerve to claim that this was my game that I played, when this guy's showing me stuff that was supposedly my game, my moves, and I didn't even see half of that. And he's showing me absolutely legit and crucially important variations that could have happened, I didn't even look at. And so the way I see it, his ownership of that game was so much higher than mine because of the invested time, energy, and effort, that it would have been the greatest injustice on the face of earth for him not to win that game. And that's what I mean by ownership, that it was his creation, and on his side, he put everything in it. He wanted to have it. I wanted it too, and I thought I did well. But upon reflection, when I went into the postmortem with the guy, and he started showing me these variations, all I had was just to go like, I really need to get my act together. Like, I calculated about 1/4 of his lines, and he just, totally was in this game, and I hardly scratched the surface. So what I want you to do, to try to do, is to be a little bit like that. Now, Grischuk used a lot of his time when it was his turn to move. What I very often also find is that excellent players spend their opponent's time really, really well. The level of anticipation is great. They almost always know what's coming, and they already reckon with that. So that when the move lands on the board, they are already prepared. And I'm sure that Grischuk was already prepared for Queen D2. I mean, let's face it, B2 is hanging. So he was already calculating lines, and he still needed that 70 extra minutes to figure out what was going on. And I'm not even going to bother going into the queen sack that happened there. I think that was a little bit of an enterprising idea at best by Wang Hao, probably banking on Grischuk's time trouble, which to my mind was a very foolish practical error, because Grischuk plays really well in time trouble. And it's one thing that you want to complicate matters, but it's another one that you can't do that entirely unsoundly. Anyway, long story short is that I'm on the wrong layout. Let's fix that. So what I want to tell you is to try to calculate beyond what's comfortable and be sure that you assess everything you calculate, because calculation for calculation's sake doesn't work. You calculate a line, you assess it, and based on that assessment, it gets into a box. I want to do it, I don't want to do it, this is my best for the time being, let me see if I can find something better. Usually these are the 3 boxes where you want to put stuff. I don't like it, goes down the gurgler. I like it, you keep it. I'm not sure, you keep it, and then you start calculating an alternative, and then once the assessment of the alternative is done, if the alternative is superior, you put the previous line into garbage. If the alternative is inferior, then the previous line steps up to that's your current choice. So there are lots of tricks and do's and don'ts that come with this, but for the time being I will just cut it off here. And my takeaway from this big talk is that, and the game itself, is that it never ceases to inspire me to try to play better chess by calculating deeper. I think that depth in chess is just a fantastic thing. Like when you really feel like you are exploring the position and you understand the dynamics and how it works because you calculated it really well, that's a very satisfying feeling. So try to aim for that. Try to be that chess player who calculates a little bit more than yesterday and who always tries to calculate a little bit more than the opponent, because that is very likely going to lead to more victories. So on that note, I'm going to wish you now the very best of luck with your chess. And one parting thought, if you manage to make it this far in the video, my previous video, Kostya's Immortal Game, is probably one of the best video I have ever made in my life. And a lot of people, I believe, didn't watch it because the title was misleading a little bit about sub-battles, which is not about that. It's one game analysis about Kostya Kavutsky's best game of his life. And if you want yourself a treat, then go and check that out. If you haven't done so, I promise you, you will not be disappointed. On that note, I will log off now and we'll be back with more soon. Bye.